evening, everyone. It's about 7 o'clock, and this is your Wednesday evening, April 14th. Closing comment. It is video number 713. So it was a fairly exciting day. We had the big banks, three of the big banks report first thing. They all beat both top and bottom line. And after starting slightly to the downside, Wells Fargo was actually up the most at 42.03, up 224 or 5.6%. I guess that the street and the public like that. I wouldn't own that bank if somebody put a gun to my head. They are continuously thieving individuals. You just wait for the next thing that they do to screw this up to come to the forefront. Goldman Sachs was up about 13 during the day. It actually, pre-market was up about 10. Then it was only up about 3. Then it was up 13. And it closed 335.35, up $7.67. The loser in the group was JP Morgan, which also beat, and it finished today 151.21, down 288 or 1.9%. Tomorrow we have a bunch more of them coming to, I think it's also mostly pre-market. Okay, so today was the big day for COINBASE, and the talk about it, well, it was its reference point because it was a direct listing, not a raise and an IPO. The talk was anywhere up to about 400. They priced it last night, the reference point, at 250. And then they managed to open it at 381. They took it up to 429.54 and then collapsed it. It was as low as 310, and the last trade I have on it is 343, which is down about 37 from where it opened, and about 85 and change from the high of the day. So I don't know how you dress this pig up. The old expression, you can't put lipstick on a pig, but it did not trade well. I personally don't like it. I think that this is a dramatically competitive area, and margins will continue to contract there. You have people like PayPal and Square, and if you think that Fidelity is going to sit on their hands and let this little upstart that was trading at a value of over 100 billion at the high, if you think that they're just going to throw in the towel and say, okay, you're sadly mistaken. Robinhood is already doing this business, and you can be sure that there will be others. So I think margins will continue to contract. I think that we will have periods of time when Bitcoin is lower, and I just, when there's no interest, it doesn't matter what the margins are if they're not doing business. They're talking about all of the other things that they want to get into. My attitude is those are basically non-core businesses, loaning, exchanging, the exchange for purchase and sale. The margins on all of these things are going to come down, and I just don't think that being first necessarily means all that much in this market. So today, Bitcoin, actually, I need to change this chart for you. We'll come back to lumber in a little while. Bitcoin actually traded at a new all-time high, 65,000. Let's see. 65,520, new all-time high, came back down and closed on the low or near the low. It's up about 825 now, but still below where we were yesterday on the high. What's interesting about this is that there was obviously a trade of selling Bitcoin to buy Coinstar. Um, it's almost indisputable that that's where some of the money was going to come from to begin with. But here's the interesting thing. Bitcoin down on the day after making a new high. Monero up on the day. Ethereum up on the day. XPR, which is Ripple, up on the day. Chainlink, Cardano, Doge, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, VeChain. The list goes on and on and on. This was specifically Bitcoin for Coinbase. So, I think that probably gets reversed, and, we'll see how it goes. But again, it's just not something I have any interest in owning whatsoever. Okay, so after the banks, we had all of the J&J versus Moderna and Pfizer. Pfizer, which, is kind of a dog of a stock. It rarely moves. With all of the news today that drove mRNA up over 7%. Moderna closed 160.53, up 10.82. Pfizer was up a nickel. This is still below where it was pre-announcement about their vaccine. And Johnson & Johnson was all over the place, but at the end of the day, the FDA people said, no vote. We need more information. So the stock, which was as high as about 161 and change, last trade was 159.10, down 38 cents. So not much to say about that. We had news today that took the market lower, and it just kind of fed on itself after 2 o'clock. The beige book took the market from up to down, although the internals actually were very positive. And we had import and export numbers. Imports were 1.2% up versus 0.8% ex-oil, and exports were 2.1 higher, and agricultural stuff was actually 2 points higher. So there's definitely some inflation in the system. Tomorrow, we have a lot of stuff. It's Thursday, so Thursday is claims day. We also have retail sales, industrial production, capital utilization, capacity utilization, Philly Fed, Empire State, business inventories, and the NAHB home market index. So we'll see all of those tomorrow. So now I want to go back to the one that I've mentioned a couple of times in the last couple of weeks and months, and that is lumber. Lumber was again limit up today. This is a market that just, we called it here at 900 when it broke out. It broke out again at 1,000. There's nothing that was in the way to taking it higher, and today it closed at $1205.50, up the limit of $32. I believe that the limit gets expanded tomorrow by 50%, so we'll see what happens there. But it's difficult to decide where a top is on this. We are in Rayonier, which is lumber REIT. We paid $31.97 for it, got a dividend the next day, and it closed at $35.10 today, down a couple of cents. But this is an REIT dealing in lumber. So basically what that means is they have to pay out 90% of what they make in order to have their tax advantaged status. So that really eliminates the double taxation issue for individuals who own a stock that, a company that first gets taxed and then they get taxed on the dividend. So REITs cut that out, which is why they are so well favored and supported by individual investors. All right, everyone. So the gold was down about 11, didn't really break, but didn't continue to the upside either. The dollar was down 17 cents at 91.67. The bonds were down about a quarter of a point. The Dow was up 53 after being up well over 200. The NASDAQ was down 1% or 138. But what was interesting to me today was that while the transports did nothing, the S&P was down just under 17 or 0.4%. We rotated back into the small caps, and the Russell was up 1879 or 0.84%. So an okay day there. And I also want to make mention that the market internals on the NYSE, the volume was actually almost 1.8 to 1 to the upside. So that's pretty broad for the market, because that's done on the NYSE versus the composite, not the Dow 30 or the NASDAQ 100. All right, everyone. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll be back in the morning with a bunch of numbers and probably the new bank earnings.